Well, it's time now for Media Watch here on Live from Paris. I'm joined as ever by James Creedon for a look through what's been making waves in the media and online. Hi there, James.
Evening, Catherine.
We're starting with a very sad story and the media coverage of the beheading of the US journalist James Foley, and in particular an interesting debate over whether or not the image should be blocked on social networks.
That's right. It's been one of the big aspects of the debate in the past 24 hours, because quite early on there was a tweet from somebody with the handle at Libya Liberty. Let's take a look at that tweet, because she was the first to use this hashtag ISIS Media Blackout. The only two weapons ISIS has is the propensity for violent, gruesome murder and an internet connection. Take away one. So in other words, cut them off of the oxygen of publicity that they're seeking via social media, because ISIS have actually been very savvy users of the internet for propaganda purposes in the last 6 months or so. YouTube videos, use of Twitter and Facebook, etc. I refuse to be an instrument of extremist propaganda, and I will not share any violent images. RIP James Foley, says another Twitter user using that same hashtag, which then took off as a big campaign across social media over the past 24 hours. Next, in terms of picking up on that, Dick Costello, who is the CEO of Twitter, he tweeted this morning. We seem to have lost that page, but he essentially said that they are making an effort to block social media accounts that do tweet or retweet the images or video of the beheading. So
interesting though, on Twitter though, there was some reports saying that people who'd had accounts which could be fronts for ISIS or sympathisers, they'd actually taken their own accounts offline in anticipation of this.
Right.
So perhaps trying not to be blocked, trying to suspend their accounts and maybe come back
and
later.
It is interesting too, because Twitter generally doesn't opt for censorship. Facebook, for example, is much quicker to censor material that is sensitive, but you will often find violent images on Twitter that isn't censored. But in this case, they said they've had to balance the public and private interests, and that they do generally listen to family members who ask for images of their loved ones who've passed on to be taken down.
As James Foley's family have asked people
Right.
not to watch or share the video, but to remember him for his
Right,
work
and in this
steps.
instance, Twitter says that is within their policy as regards what material can be removed. YouTube as well have taken down material from their from their platform, and they've been making an effort to completely rid their platform of content from ISIS, in particular this video. Elsewhere, the New York Post, Catherine, made what many are calling an unethical decision to actually go ahead and publish the image of the moment just before he was...
well, they're known for their shock journalism sometimes.
That's right,
aren't they?
and the headline was savages underneath. And what I thought was quite interesting was the New York Daily News, the rival tabloid in New York, went for exactly the same image and exactly the same headline. So a case of not so great minds thinking alike there. But they were really slammed across social media for that decision. Most of us on Twitter are more respectful than the New York Post on a crusade for Murdoch. So they had the time to actually sit back and think and make a decision, and they went for the wrong decision. I think it's clear to say.
Okay, I don't know if we've got time for this Vanity Fair article, but quickly, we have got time for it.
Okay.
Vanity Fair published a long report in May, in
Yes.
May, about James Foley's kidnapping, because of course he was kidnapped nearly 2 years ago, November 2012.
That's right.
Nothing much was heard of him for
That's
much
right.
of that time.
And
Vanity Fair, this article on Syria being the most dangerous place in the world for journalists.
That's right, and if you look at the headline of this article, it really states it all. Evaporated, they said, and they're referring in particular to James Foley and another colleague of his, Austin Tice. They disappeared essentially without trace. Almost nothing was heard of them. I'll read you one paragraph from this article, written by James Harkin, who was himself a freelance journalist in Syria, as was James Foley and Austin Tice, who is still in captivity. Syria is the most dangerous place in the world for journalists. In the last 3 years, at least 60 have been killed while covering the conflict there. This was written in May, and those figures are according to the Committee to Protect Journalists. They talk about Mary Colvin, the Sunday Times journalist who was killed in Homs in February 2012, and after that much of the Western media decided to draw back from covering the country. So what you have since then is lightly resourced, laughably paid, almost completely no armed only with kind of mobile phones and notebooks, freelance journalists
With
going in
not
there.
the back, a lot of them very young. Wasn't the case of James Foley, who was an experienced journalist, but
Right.
a lot of young,
So,
under-equipped freelance freelancers.
That's right. So the protection
very
isn't being extended to a lot of these freelance journalists, and I suppose that's a big part of the problem. 4/5 of all journalists working in Syria, according to one estimate, are freelance and answering to no one but themselves.
Very scary situation. Thanks very much there,
Thanks,
James Creedon there with tonight's Media Watch. Do stay tuned.